Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The city was bustling that morning, its crowded streets echoing with the hubbub of cars and hurried passers-by. In the upscale neighborhood, luxury boutiques displayed their gleaming windows, promising wealth and sophistication. Among them was a store renowned for its high-end bags and accessories. Lisa Jefferson, 32, elegant and confident, pushed open the door of the boutique. Her heels clicked on the polished marble, attracting a few admiring glances and others filled with curiosity. Lisa was no stranger to these stares. A black woman in a city where prejudice remained stubborn, she had learned to stand tall, to walk with confidence, to never let the whispers get to her. A few meters away, Marcus Hale, a 35-year-old white police officer known for his arrogance and constant need to demonstrate his authority, was observing the scene from his patrol car. His gaze fell on Lisa, and an unjustified thought crept in, who knows what she's hiding? Without waiting, he left his vehicle and followed Lisa into the store. What began as an ordinary visit would quickly become a moment of public humiliation. Marcus, confident in his power, was convinced he could act without consequence. What he didn't know was that Lisa was no ordinary client, and that this confrontation would change his life forever. Lisa Jefferson walked slowly through the aisles of the store, running her fingertips over the leather bags on display. Each piece seemed to tell a story of luxury and prestige. She had come to find a special bag for her sister, a gift that would symbolize their bond after a difficult year. A few steps from the entrance, Marcus Hale pushed open the store door with a soft click. His impeccable uniform and gleaming badge attracted attention. But what was most striking was his gaze, cold, suspicious, almost accusatory. As soon as he saw Lisa, a thrill of arrogance ran through him. She looked suspicious, he thought. For no good reason, Marcus walked towards her, his heavy footsteps echoing on the store floor. Lisa looked up, seeing him getting closer, and gave a small, polite smile, still unaware of the imminent danger. "Hello, madam. May I help you?" Marcus asked, his tone meant to be cordial but sounding authoritative. "Hello, thank you. I'm just looking," Lisa replied calmly, her eyes shining with intelligence and serenity. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Lisa's calmness seemed almost defiant to him. He took a step closer, bringing his face closer to hers. "Are you sure you're not taking something?" Lisa blinked, surprised by the baseless accusation. "I don't understand." "I didn't take anything. I'm not here to steal," she said in a measured but firm voice. The police officer snorted, a dry, contemptuous sound. Around them, a few customers were beginning to notice the tension. Marcus didn't just want to question Lisa, he wanted to assert his dominance, to show that he had the power here. "All right, let's see what you have in your bag," he ordered, pointing his finger authoritatively. Lisa felt the weight of everyone's gaze upon her. She could have given in to fear, let herself be intimidated, but she didn't. Her dignity was stronger than fear, and she stared into Marcus's eyes with a quiet clarity that unsettled the arrogant man. At that precise moment, Marcus had no idea that his arrogance had just set in motion a chain of events that would lead him to a humiliation he could never have imagined. And Lisa, for her part, was ready to stand her ground, no matter what. Marcus Hale didn't like being talked down to. Lisa's calm demeanor irritated him deeply. As the customers began to stare, he raised his voice, trying to assert his authority. "I asked you to show your bag, madam. Now." Lisa, still calm, took a deep breath before answering. "Officer, I have nothing to hide. I don't take anything here without paying. You have no reason to accuse me." Marcus snorted and took a step forward, his badge glittering in the store lights. "All right, then we'll check it out. I won't tolerate any theft in my presence." At that moment, several customers began to murmur, puzzled and shocked. Some discreetly took out their phones to film the scene. The air was thick with tension. Lisa, elegant in her navy blue dress, stood straight, while Marcus, red with fury, seemed to be losing control. "You think you can challenge me?" Marcus snapped, his voice betraying his anger. "You're just an ordinary customer here, I do what I want." Lisa felt the humiliation rising, but she didn't give in. Her gaze remained straight, her voice calm but firm. "I'm a customer like any other, and I deserve respect. You can't accuse me without proof." A small group of customers approached, some murmuring their support. Marcus, furious, was unaware that he was already losing control of the situation. His gestures became more abrupt, his words harsher, and every movement attracted attention. Suddenly, a witness took out their phone and began filming. Marcus, focused on Lisa, didn't notice that every word, every gesture, was being recorded. Lisa, aware of what was happening, remained calm and prepared to defend her dignity, ready for everyone to see the truth: she had done nothing wrong. And so, in full view of everyone, what could have been a simple trip to the store turned into a public confrontation where Marcus's arrogance would begin to turn against him. The whispers were becoming more and more audible. The store's customers, initially quiet, were beginning to gather around Lisa and Marcus. Questioning and shocked looks weighed on the arrogant police officer, but he seemed unaware, too focused on demonstrating his authority. "Leave me alone," a voice protested behind him, but Marcus ignored it. Lisa, at the center of this small gathering, felt the stares weighing on her. She took a deep breath, letting her dignity speak for her. "I assure you, I didn't take anything." "You're wasting your time, officer." Marcus fumed inwardly. Every second Lisa remained calm made an almost palpable irritation grow within him. He wanted to dominate the scene, but Lisa's attitude and the looks of the witnesses were beginning to unsettle him. A young woman from the store, who witnessed the scene, whispered to her neighbor. "It's unfair, she didn't do anything." The murmurs turned into audible comments. A few customers dared to approach, asking questions and showing their support for Lisa. Marcus, irritated, tried to raise his voice to regain control. "Back off. This is a police matter." But the more he shouted, the more the crowd stiffened. Phones were out, the scene was being filmed. Lisa, aware that everything was being recorded, showed no fear. Her calm contrasted starkly with Marcus's aggression, accentuating the humiliation he was suffering without even realizing it. "You see?" Lisa said, her voice clear and firm, to Marcus and the customers. "I didn't do anything. I'm not guilty of baseless accusations." At that precise moment, Marcus felt a wave of panic wash over him. The scene he wanted to control was completely beyond his control. He had become the object of everyone's attention, and his arrogance was beginning to backfire on him. The video of the confrontation would soon circulate in the store corridors, and what was a simple misunderstanding would turn into a public humiliation that would mark Marcus for a long time. Just minutes after the incident, the video recorded by a witness began appearing on social media. Lisa's calm, dignified face contrasted with Marcus's abrupt gestures and angry voice. Every word the police officer spoke now seemed to resonate ridiculously to those watching the scene on their phones. "Look at this. This police officer is humiliating an innocent client, shameful. She remains so calm, what strength." The comments were piling up, shared by thousands of people within hours. The video was going viral, and Marcus, unaware of its spread, continued to try to justify his behavior to Lisa and the customers in the store. Lisa, for her part, was aware of the effect her dignity and calmness produced. She didn't get angry, didn't shout, or become aggressive. Her silence and upright posture spoke for her, and viewers from a distance immediately perceived the injustice. Soon, local journalists picked up the story, interviewing witnesses and sharing video footage. Marcus Hale, until then confident in his authority and invincible in his uniform, began to feel his reputation was under threat. Colleagues at the police station, intrigued by the viral nature of the case, were already questioning him about his behavior. In his patrol car, he finally looked at his phone and saw the thousands of views and comments. His face paled, and for the first time in years, Marcus felt a panic he'd never known. The silent applause for Lisa on social media and the messages of support were beginning to overwhelm him. He had become a symbol of arrogance and injustice. And at that moment, Marcus could no longer ignore the fact that this public humiliation was only the beginning of a long path of consequences he had never imagined. The next day, Marcus Hale could no longer ignore the turn of events. The local newspapers carried the photo of the confrontation on their front pages. The headlines were unequivocal. Police officer humiliates innocent client, video goes viral. Strength and calm in the face of arrogance, the story of Lisa Jefferson. At the police station, his colleagues whispered behind his back. Some tried to downplay the incident, but others regarded Marcus with a sort of silent judgment. Even his superiors summoned him to explain his behavior. Marcus, usually self-assured, felt the pressure mounting. Every notification on his phone, every unanswered call, reminded him that his reputation was crumbling. The arrogant police officer had underestimated the power of public opinion and how quickly social media could amplify an injustice. Meanwhile, Lisa received an outpouring of support. Civil rights groups, friends, and strangers praised her courage and dignity. Some urged her to speak publicly about the incident, while others offered help with legal proceedings. Marcus, isolated and overwhelmed, began to realize that he could no longer control the situation with his usual authority. The whole world seemed to have its eyes on him, and every clumsy move risked reinforcing the humiliation he was suffering. This pressure wasn't just media-related, it was moral and personal. For the first time in his career, Marcus found himself facing a force he couldn't intimidate. Lisa, with her calm and dignity, had become the unyielding judge of his arrogance. Marcus Hale was having a bad day. Every message, every call, every social media comment seemed to be nagging at him. He felt trapped, unable to regain his authority or repair his reputation. But what came next would turn his humiliation into a lesson. A colleague entered the office, a smile mixed with irony on his face. "Marcus, do you know who the woman you humiliated yesterday is?" "What?" Marcus asked, frowning. "Lisa Jefferson. Renowned civil rights attorney. She's already won cases against institutions and corporations for discrimination and abuse of power. If she decides to file a lawsuit, you won't be able to get away with it." Marcus's face paled. His usual arrogance gave way to panic. He realized that his impulsive action wasn't about an ordinary client, but a powerful and respected woman in the legal field. "She could sue me?" he stammered incredulously. "Absolutely," his colleague replied. "And believe me, she won't back down. You're in serious trouble, Marcus." For the first time, Marcus felt the true weight of his actions. Every arrogant gesture, every contemptuous word spoken in front of customers and now immortalized on social media, would come back to haunt him. The reality of his situation hit him hard. He was no longer the invincible police officer he believed himself to be. Meanwhile, Lisa, aware of her position, prepared to act with caution and determination. She knew that Marcus wasn't just arrogant, he was dangerous to her reputation and well-being. But she wasn't afraid. She had her dignity, her patience, and her intelligence on her side. The confrontation was only just beginning. Marcus was about to discover that some lessons are not learned through force, but through truth and justice. A few days later, Marcus Hale was summoned to court to answer for his actions. Lisa Jefferson, calm and impeccable in her blue suit, waited in the courtroom. Her gaze, serene but determined, weighed on the police officer, who for the first time felt small and vulnerable. "Mr. Hale," the judge began, "we are here to consider Mrs. Jefferson's charges of harassment and discrimination. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Marcus tried to regain his composure. "Your Honor. I was simply acting within the scope of my duties." "Your actions were recorded and broadcast publicly," the judge interrupted. "You are accusing an innocent client of a crime she did not commit. This video clearly demonstrates your excessive and intimidating behavior." Lisa stood up, her clear voice echoing around the room. "Your Honor, I never sought conflict. I walked into that store like any other customer. Officer Hale accused me without evidence, humiliated me in front of other customers, and threatened my integrity. I demand redress and that steps be taken to prevent this from happening again." Murmurs rippled through the room. Marcus, usually self-assured, felt his cheeks burn. Every word Lisa said reinforced his guilt and the weight of the public humiliation he was now suffering. The judge listened attentively, scrutinizing Marcus's demeanor and Lisa's dignity. The decision seemed clear to all: arrogance and abuse of power came at a price, and Marcus would have to answer for it. The confrontation with the law wasn't just a legal matter. It was an implacable mirror, reflecting all the police officers' mistakes, prejudices, and arrogance. And Lisa, with her calm and determination, showed that dignity and justice could triumph even in the face of the most blatant injustice. A few days after the hearing, the punishment was handed down. Marcus Hale had been reprimanded by his superiors, temporarily suspended, and subjected to mandatory training on discrimination and ethical behavior. His file, now tainted by a viral incident, was circulating throughout the departments. Social media hadn't forgotten him. Comments, shares, and articles continued to remind people of his arrogance and abuse of power. Marcus felt for the first time what humiliation could mean when it was public and unavoidable. Lisa, for her part, had received redress. Financial compensation for the emotional harm she suffered was awarded, but more importantly, her dignity and courage were publicly recognized. She received messages of support from all over the city, and even national media outlets praised her strength in the face of injustice. In the corridors of the police station, his colleagues avoided his gaze. Marcus, who once commanded respect through fear and authority, now found himself isolated. Every mention of his name evoked the viral video and the shameful behavior he had displayed. For Marcus, the shock was brutal. He had underestimated the power of dignity and calm in the face of arrogance. He understood that his career and reputation would not be easily rebuilt. And above all, he realized that public humiliation could hit harder than any official reprimand. Lisa, for her part, continued her life, strengthened by this experience. She had shown everyone that courage, patience, and dignity could triumph over injustice and arrogance. Marcus, however, could never forget this bitter lesson. Marcus Hale walked home that evening, his face somber and his shoulders heavy. Every notification on his phone, every missed call, every message from colleagues or superiors reminded him of the humiliation he had suffered. He had been arrogant, sure of his power, and today, all that had collapsed. He thought back to Lisa Jefferson, her calm demeanor and unwavering dignity. Every gesture, every word she had spoken in the courtroom and in the store came back to him like a cruel mirror of her arrogance. For the first time in his career, Marcus understood that authority alone did not command respect. Respect was earned through honesty, fairness, and dignity. "How could I have been so stupid?" he muttered to himself. He tried to think of ways to redeem himself, to repair his image, but nothing seemed enough. Public apologies were difficult to formulate without sounding pathetic, and he knew that the lost trust would never fully return. Meanwhile, Lisa continued her work and commitments with renewed vigor. She had transformed an unjust humiliation into a lesson for the entire community. Marcus understood then that some lessons are not learned through force or intimidation, but through courage and truth. This realization didn't immediately make him a better man, but it marked the beginning of a profound introspection. Marcus now knew that his fall was not only professional, but moral. And for the first time, he considered the possibility of becoming a more just man, aware that his actions had consequences he could no longer ignore. A few weeks after the incident, Lisa Jefferson's life was returning to normal. She continued her work as a lawyer, but now her name resonated throughout the city as a symbol of courage and dignity. The media continued to report her story, praising her patience, calm, and strength in the face of Marcus Hale's arrogance. Marcus, on the other hand, lived every day with the weight of his tarnished reputation. His suspension had ended, but the trust of his colleagues and the public remained. Every time he saw Lisa's video in the store, he felt a mixture of shame and regret. He had learned the hard way that arrogance can backfire and that respect is never imposed by force. For Lisa, the experience had been harrowing, but she had emerged stronger. She had shown her community and the world that dignity and courage were more powerful than intimidation and contempt. Her calm had been her weapon, her patience her shield. And while Marcus timidly tried to repair his mistakes, Lisa continued to walk with her head held high, aware that some victories are not measured only in justice or material reparations, but in inner strength and newfound respect. In this life lesson, one message was evident to all: arrogance can humiliate, but dignity and courage always triumph. Marcus would never forget this, and Lisa had forever left her mark on her community as a living example that even in the face of injustice, it is possible to stand tall.